God, I love muskets, but sometimes they hurt my tender heart. Hello, I'm handsome, and this is my banner. But my name isn't actually handsome, it's O'Macnowberg. Okay, Irish O'Macnowberg, and yes, I am also Irish, in case you were wondering. I'm currently off on an adventure of sorts. However, I am going to need some assistance, so I'm going to be visiting nearby villages and towns to recruit some helping hands. Ah, British colonial militiamen, the most beautiful of all the militia. Devilish. We were going to begin cleaning up the beautiful lands of Ireland, starting with these 5 looters, but we were ambushed by some sea raiders, and the looters even decided to tag in to help them. Now, being this severely outnumbered, you probably think that I'd make the smart choice and try to flee or send my men into battle so that I could escape. Well, you're wrong. We're not cowards, and we don't plan on backing down to anyone. Though I was still a bit wet behind the ears, this being our first battle, and given the circumstances, we were faring quite well. Or so I thought. Yeah. All my men had died and I was suffering from a gunshot to the old gut. We were taken prisoner, and after a few hard days, eventually one of my captors had made me an offer. My swift freedom for 297 pieces. I would of course accept this offer and leave, but I will be back for my captors. I rushed to a nearby town under the cover of night to begin resting, but before I would do that, I would also recruit some men. The road to recovery would be anything but easy, but once I was back on my feet, I would lead my men once again against sea raiders, and this time the odds are in our favor. In the shadows, a line of our militiamen firing off volley after volley of musket. What few of these sea raiders remained, we decided to get up close and personal with them, and though I cared very little for the survival of these scum, we would take a couple of them hostage so that we may bring them to justice, just as well as taking all of their things, such as, but not limited to, a new flintlock pistol, beer, cheese, and everything in between. And just as the great St. Patrick had drove all the snakes from Ireland, I, Irish O'Macnowberg, shall drive all the looters and sea raiders away. For I may not be any type of saint, but these bastards are surely serpents. By this point we were faring much better in our crusade against looters and raiders, and we were even much more well equipped. Our men had gained much experience from our multitude of battles, and thus we would upgrade their gear as well. Dublin would pay a pretty penny for all these filthy fools that we've been taking hostage, as well as their beautiful bounty of loot. I was still quite a young lad with many glorious battles under my belt, but I was bringing my men to victory and making a name for myself. After much fighting and much searching, I would eventually find a hideout of some of the nearby mountain bandits. Clearing out this hideout will surely bring us much reputation. We had waited for several hours just outside the hideout. When night fell, we would make our move. And so it begins. I would lead my men through the foothills of this bandit camp, taking out every single one that we saw, many from a distance with our weaponry. We made many observations about how the bandits lived and even how they ate. Less than desirable accommodations, to say the least. Eventually, we were confronted by the captain of the mountain bandits. It would seem that he took notice of us cutting down all his men, and he wants to try and challenge me to a duel. I have nothing to prove to him, but for the morale of my men, I would accept. He didn't specify the terms of our weapons, and thus he used a sword and shield, gashing me across the face before... Yeah, there's probably a good joke here about a sword to a gunfight, but I can't think of one. With this bandit faction cleared, we would continue our crusade against many others. In some cases, we even fought alongside some of the greatest British generals. Granted, their armies were much larger than ours, so they did most of the fighting, but we were sure not to miss too much of the action, of course. We wanted to try to prove ourselves in their presence. By a certain point, we had become so well known that these pirates were actually offering to join us instead of dying. Well, it's either that or the fact fact that they're outnumbered 20 to 1. I began to notice that there were several rebellions springing up all across Ireland. Galway's rebels were beginning to take over a small portion of the country. Though, as it currently stands, we are a bit too small to begin getting into political matters, so for the time being, we're not going to worry about it. Besides, we need to do a bit of traveling if we really want to get our reputation out there, so we would actually pay a ferry to take us to Scotland. We headed a bit south and even began traveling the English countryside. I noticed that the capital of London was under siege by the French king. But once again, not really my problem. I found it best if I stuck to looters and bandits, which of course I did. A funny thing that we had killed so many looters and bandits in Ireland, we had to come over to England to begin clearing out their little problem for them. Not that I'm complaining, the harder the looters and bandits are to find, the better of a job we're doing. After spending about a month or so in England, I would return to my home. Upon my arrival, I would find a Sea Raider hideout as well. There was word that the same Sea Raider captain that had taken me hostage so long ago and killed my men was here, leading this sorry outfit. The winter winds were cold, but nonetheless we would still sneak in the dead of night, me and my men. The calm was over quite quickly as we began raiding the camp, killing every single Sea Raider that we came into contact with. But even so, many of my companions would quickly begin to lose their lives. Everyone wants to be a great general, but nobody wants to pay the price. The raiders were entrenched deep within the mountain. We had to go inside to continue clearing them out. Eventually, we had killed them all, forcing their captain to come outside and parley with us. It was him all right. Even with his face covered by his new helmet, I recognized those eyes. But I had lost too many men to risk everything on a duel. We would do this as a team. I emptied my pistol into the bandit captain, and then, as his goons would come at me, my men would distract one as I stabbed him in the back. A couple of these scallywags, though, would surround me, and even though I got a few good hits in, I eventually fell. This did, however, give my men an ample opportunity to load their muskets and unload them into these bastards, giving us the victory. The soldiers were completely ecstatic, and I was looking a bit worse for wear. Could someone pick me up, please? With my revenge finally served against the bandit captain, I decided to head through England and go south towards France, a land that is chock full of exotic foods, weapons, and apparel, but most importantly, more and more of these unsavory types, looters, bandits, pirates, you know, the whole 9 yards, cleansing the countryside of some unwanted people while earning the respect of those around me. I had even freed some Frankish peasants, and I would give them the opportunity to join our ranks. They too could help us hunt down these fools who have been terrorizing their villages for so many years. But it wasn't all glorious battles. We would also occasionally take on some missions like this one where we would escort a herd of hogs to a nearby town. Not exactly something we would be all that boastful about, but we got paid a handsome penny for it, and the folks of this town will be able to eat. Eventually though, we would find our way to Paris. It would seem that they were holding some really interesting tournaments here. It seemed like an ample opportunity for some glory, so of course I joined. But I was a bit confused. I didn't speak French and everyone else did, and the rules weren't exactly set. I don't know why I didn't get a pistol. Everyone surrounded me and eventually I was taken out. Yeah, not exactly my best moment. My failure at the tournament left my face scarred and it took one of my eyes along with it, and so I decided to grow out my goatee to take the attention away. But as a rough and tough Irishman, I didn't give up so damn easy, and I would try my hand once again at another tournament. This time I was actually faring quite a bit better, taking out my enemy during a sword fight. Finally making it past the first round, earning myself a bit of glory. But the second round probably went a bit more like you'd expect. I think for now I'll probably just stick with the battlefield instead. Those tournaments are probably rigged anyhow. Eventually, after many days and many nights, we had made our way to Rome. And I must say, I was more than excited to spill the blood of thieves and murderers on these Italian hills. It was here that we had some of our most glorious, but also some of our most beautiful battles. And it was after achieving victory in several of these battles that we had ranked up our clan from nothing to a tier 1 clan, which is better than nothing. Leveling up our clan has essentially doubled the amount of troops that we can have under our command at one time. Traveling across these various lands, we would hire many a militiaman, starting off with all of these Ottoman soldiers. Our many travels would also end up leading us to find some German continental militiamen who we would also end up hiring as well. And truly, by this point, our ranks were filled with a little melting pot. We would end up beginning to head back home towards Ireland, but of course on our way there, you know that we hunted down every single forest and mountain bandit, looter, pirate, anyone like that we came across, protecting the peasants of nearby villages all the while. As you might imagine, the journey back to Ireland was not only quite long, but was fraught with danger and was quite strenuous on me and my men. So we were sure to pack plenty of beer, wine, grapes, cheese, and also some grain. Eventually though, we had finally returned to the Emerald Isle. Boy does it feel good to be home. And we had finally achieved the reputation that we had worked so hard for, albeit still quite small. We had also made some amazing strides in upgrading our weapons, our horse, our armor, and everything and anything in between really. And as mentioned earlier, we have a multitude of different types of men from many different backgrounds that also had gained a lot of experience on their travels with us. But now that we have the opportunity, maybe we could end up joining one of these nations and fighting for them. Perhaps the next time there's a rebellion in Ireland, we could pledge our loyalty to them, or we could fight alongside the king and his army. But I suppose that only time will tell. Until next time.